This is Tom Rust for TRSB Sports Podcast. All right, mate.
Not too bad, Tom. How are you doing, mate? It's been ages since we've been, on the same podcast. It feels like years, mate. It probably might be 3 months. I don't know.
3 months, mate. I had a look earlier. The last time we did a video together was on the 7th of November.
And you know what that was? That was 12 days, 8 days prior to me getting COVID-19. I think that's why we had a bit of a stop on the old the football, weren't it? It was like we was hammering away with the football sort of schedule, the reviews of the football matches and everything. And then I got COVID on the 19th of November, and it knocked me out for 3 months. It literally took me off my feet for 3 months. And did you get it as well? You had it, didn't you?
Yeah, do you know what? You're right. We were just starting to really sort of get our feet under the table with the football. We were going through our predictions from the previous week. We were talking about the results. Then we did the 3 highlights of the week, wasn't it? Sport.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just football. That was any sporting highlights, like from the world of sport. And then we were going through the predictions for the following week. And yeah, we were really starting to sort of build some momentum and just get comfortable with doing that. And then you got COVID, and I was cracking on with the boxing, just having boxers on, and I got COVID. Yeah, mate. So last video was 7th of November. And then, obviously COVID, mate, sort of messed our plans up. And December, I can't really remember what we did, what we did in December, but December was a pretty much a write-off, mate, I think.
Yeah, I think that's when the boxing took off, wasn't it? Because it was something you could get into. You get into contact with the boxers. And that started rolling quite well for us, didn't it? We've been able to do like plenty of videos with boxers. We've had Mark Tibbon, coach. We've had Big Johnny Fisher, various different boxers throughout since that the coming to the end of the football. So that's all worked out quite well for us, to be honest, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I think predominantly now we speak to professional boxers, and it's great to get them on because they are accessible. We've reached out to a lot of people via Instagram, and I think, bar 3 or 4, they've all come on. And it's great because everyone's got their own story. We've spoken to some people with great stories, like Mark Little, for example. He was 24 stone, went into a gym because he wanted to lose some weight. Next thing you know, he's realised he's got some ability and turned over as a pro. We spoke to Tommy Jacobs, who, spoke a lot and honestly about his journey, and some troubles that he had in his own life that stopped him from boxing for a long period of time. But no, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. And recently we've had a swimmer on, a young lad, and coaches, like you say. We've had Johnny Fisher's old man on, Big John Fisher, probably the most famous man in Essex at the moment. He loves a video. And yeah, mate, just been ticking along. And I know when we started, it was, the intention at some point to get people on to interview, to talk about their journey, the route into the sport, previous fights, up and coming fights, and bits and pieces. But it surprised me how quickly we were able to get people on.
Yeah, and I think part of it, I think we was going to look into sort of like evolve the football show into potentially. I think that originally what we was looking to do was maybe sort of like filter boxers in who was interested in football, so we could talk boxing and football at the same time, which would have sort of like 2 birds with 1 stone scenario. But I think the thing that I've liked about the boxing and what we've done in relation to the boxing interviews is also the amount of female boxers that we've actually had on the show as well. And it sort of like falls in line with like the explosion of sort of female boxing at present and where it's sort of going. You've just got to think of the Katie Taylor Serrano fight that's just happened, and a sellout Madison Square Gardens. It's just, to hear the female side of things as well. It's quite interesting as well because they're talking about female boxing and obviously a male dominated sport, and it's just quite nice to hear the other side of the coin. But it's also interesting just to see how quickly it evolves and at what point there'll be a bit of parity between sort of like female boxing and men's boxing, because they are putting on the shows now and they're sort of headlining shows as well.
Yeah, full credit to women's boxing. It's absolutely flying at the moment. And yeah, again, we've had a lot of female boxers on this channel. I think as fans as well, over the last couple of weeks, we've had mega fights within sport, really. You know, a couple of weeks ago, Tyson Fury, Wembley, in front of 94,000 people. And then the weekend just gone, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, huge fight. You know, in boxing, not even in women's boxing, just a huge fight in boxing. And what an absolute tear up that was. And I think, like you said as well, we've had so many on, but I think this week, tomorrow you're interviewing a female professional, and then next week you've got another female on as well. So there's so many out there, and it's good to help them with exposure.
Yeah, I think we've got Ticey Gallagher on tomorrow. She's a 4-0 fighter, but she's got a really excellent amateur pedigree. From the age of 11, I think she's sort of been fighting, and she's a 4-0. From what I hear in the interviews, and even a trainer, Tony Pill, he's got like really high hopes for her. And I spoke to a boxer from her stable, Liz Barker, and she seems to think that she's got every potential chance of going to be like a world champion. So it'd be really interesting to have a chat with her tomorrow and to see what her plans are. But yeah, football wise, obviously the reason for today's catch up was obviously catch up with a bit of football, and I thought it was quite a good time to actually catch up with the football, because we're at a point, we're at the Alex Ferguson squeaky bum time, really. We're at 4 games to go in the Premiership. You've got Man City first, Liverpool second, Chelsea third, Arsenal fourth. At the minute, 4 games left. Man City are on 83 points, Liverpool on 82 points. There's a point in it between them. With the 4 games to go, I was just going to ask your sort of opinion where you think that title might go.
Do you know what? I think it's been an incredible season, and you know, you go back 2 months ago or 3 months ago, it was all over. It was City's to win and run away with it. I think Liverpool had a couple of games in hand, which I think they won them both. So the points wasn't as you know, the difference wasn't huge, but they won their games in hand. But mate, I don't know. It's going to be such a good finish to the season. Chelsea have, you know, fallen away. They've had a lot of problems off the pitch, of course. However, I believe you've got the fixtures up in front of you somewhere, I hope.
Yeah, I've got some fixtures here. So I suppose if we look at Man City's fixtures,
yeah,
out of the 4 games they got, so there's a potential 12 points available for them. They've got Newcastle at home. They've got Wolves away, West Ham away, and then they've got Villa at home. To me, I look at that and I think that's 12 points. I can't really see them dropping points in that one.
Yeah, no, I think just a shout out to Newcastle. How well has Eddie Howe done since he's taken over, mate? I had a look earlier, 10th in the table, and they were, you know, fighting relegation when he walked through the door. But mate, he's done an incredible job. But yeah, I think you're right. I think from those 4 games, I think looking at that, I think the toughest one is West Ham away.
Yeah, West Ham away. I think like the Newcastle at home. Yeah, like I said, credit to the Newcastle manager. Obviously, he did have a bit of money coming, didn't he, from the Saudis? I think he was able to sort of like buy himself out of trouble. But saying that, obviously he was able to go out and pick the players that he wanted, but he still had to put them into like a unit, a formation, a shape, and they are playing with a bit more sort of like spirit and vigor. So yeah, Eddie Howe, he has done a terrific job there. The Wolves game, I see them picking up all 3 points away at Wolves. West Ham, yeah, is the difficult one. I feel sorry a bit sorry for West Ham. You could say like at the beginning of the season they was flying, and like we was really giving David Moyes credit for what he's done and everything. They was like sort of like battling up for the top 4. They slipped away a little bit in relation to the chase for the top 4, but on the other hand, they are still in the Europa semi-final, aren't they, for Europe?
Yeah. I think what are they 1-0 down with that?
Yeah, 1-0 down on that leg.
I think that's always the trouble, though, isn't it? You know, when you're successful and you finish in a strong position in the league, and then you have to go into another competition, unless you've got a healthy squad, it can be challenging. And yeah, we earlier on in the season, we were giving David Moyes a lot of credit. I feel like with David Moyes, he built up such a good reputation at Everton, And then when he went to United and things didn't work out for him there, I felt for him, and he's almost had to rebuild. And he's, his second sort of time at West Ham, he's got his feet under the table. He's doing really well. But I suppose if you're a West Ham fan and they don't get in the top four, but they go on, go all the way and win that competition, then I think you would be quite happy. But yeah, I see City beating Newcastle. I see him beating Wolves. I probably would fancy him. Mate. I think 12 points out of those last 4 games.
So based on that basis alone, then they've won the league, haven't they? Because I mean, Liverpool are a point behind. But if you look at Liverpool's fixtures, they got Spurs away, they got Villa at home, Southampton away, and Wolves. On current form, they are a bit of a machine at the minute, and it always pains me to say that Liverpool are doing extremely well, because I was talking to my boy earlier, and it just seems like they're a well-oiled machine. And I think a lot of that credit goes down to their left back and right back. I think if you look at Robertson and Trent, Alexander-Arnold, a lot of their attack comes from them two sort of defenders. And the way they push up the field, it sort of opens up the pitch for everyone else. So I think they will potentially beat Spurs. And obviously I need Spurs to win that game, because obviously they're in the hunt with Arsenal. I have a feeling they could win that game. The Villa game, I think they definitely win. Southampton away, I think they win. I think potentially they could pick up all points. I think if they do drop anywhere, I think it'll be to Spurs, and that's obviously me thinking we are. I think we might get a draw out of it. Whether we can nick a win or not is 2 different matters. But just based on that little bit of analysis alone, then we've already worked out Man City are now the Premiership winners.
Yeah, it's always difficult though, isn't it? You never know, mate, and anything can happen. Nothing would surprise me. But I think when you look at Liverpool and City, and you look at their managers, I don't know about you, but that they seem like the managers that the players will leave everything out on that pitch. They'd run for a brick wall for them. They look like managers you want to play for, and put a shift in. But yeah, I don't know. Is Liverpool's running arguably harder than City's?
I don't know. I suppose if you're looking at it, the hardest team, well, the team that's the furthest up the league in respect to all of those teams would be Spurs. So Spurs are 5th in the league at the minute. Villa, Southampton and Wolves are all below Spurs. So if you're looking at current format and who's in the table, you'd say Spurs were the hardest game. I say Newcastle. You were saying West Ham is the hardest game for Newcastle. Like I say, I'm saying that Man City take all the 12 points, but like you said, there's so many twists and turns. Potentially there could be an injury next week. We don't know. It could affect, and then there could be a completely different effect in the results. Chelsea, like we say, Chelsea have obviously just fallen away. Chelsea on 66 points. So they get nowhere near second. Arsenal on 63 points in 4th place. So I think really the conversation more is about that chase for the top 4 for the European spot, that Champions League spot. I think there's so much hinging on that. And it's worth so much to the clubs that get that. It's almost, it's almost, you're better off sometimes getting 4th place for the monetary gains than what you are winning the FA Cup or the League Cup. Do you know what I mean? So it's very tight for 4th. So Arsenal 63, Spurs on 61. I'll give you Arsenal's last 4 games. So
just before we go through that, then. So just for clarity, are you going on City win the league?
Yeah, City have won the league for me. I mean, if it's just to go the way things are going at the minute, and the same momentum, both teams are just going out and churning results. So I think Man City will pick it up. Liverpool obviously got the quadruple on at the minute. So there's a lot of things going on for Liverpool. Potentially it could be a Liverpool-Man City Champions League final as well. So there's so many twists and turns, I think, in relation to, can Liverpool get the quadruple? That'd be absolutely awful for me. for them to go and do that, obviously it'd be
never really end of it, would you?
It would be a fantastic result for Liverpool, and every Liverpool fan in the world would love it. Obviously there'd be a few fans that would just be, you'll hear it forever, wouldn't you? And
well, for me,
has anyone else done it?
Yeah. Well, for me, mate, I'm a United fan, as you know. What's worse, Liverpool winning the league or City? I don't know.
Oh
Neither of
yeah, it's
them
hard for
winning the
you.
league is good for me, mate. But City obviously got a big game tonight, Champions League in Spain against Real Madrid. Obviously, Liverpool got through last night against Villarreal. So, like you said, mate, it could be an all English final.
And
But
that's the thing. I was going to say, yeah, that's the thing with Liverpool about like the momentum and the way they're churning out results. Like they was 2-0 down, and like some teams might have crumbled. They've come out and they've turned it around 3-2, and they've won it on aggregate easily, haven't they? 5-2 or something. So I think that's the mentality that the top teams have got, haven't they? The teams like Man City, the teams like Liverpool at the minute, you've got to admit they are top teams. And it's as much about the ability they've got, but it's the mentality that they have to know that they can go out and they can churn out result after result after result. There must be such a high confidence within both of those squads for them just to go out and play football the way they do and get those results. It must be down to confidence and ability, and obviously structure and coaching.
I think they've got leaders in their teams as well. I think when we come on to Man United this season, there's just no passion. There's no identity of the team. It seems like sometimes they don't really care if they win, lose, or draw. But with Liverpool and City, again, they've got managers that you'd want to play for. They leave it out on the pitch, and yeah, you often see Liverpool or City. They go 1, maybe even 2-0 down, and you still wouldn't write them off. You'd fancy them to come back and get a few. Salah for Liverpool this season has been on form. City, we questioned at the beginning of the season, would they miss not having that striker? We spoke just as the season started about should they have put all their eggs in one basket and tried to sign Harry Kane, but they always seem to find a way. They've got goals all over their pitch. I think they won last weekend 4-0, I think, and 4 individual goal scorers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They at the minute, Pep can actually put a side out without a focal point. So part of you just wonders, what would it have been like if they had secured a sort of like a top striker, if they had got Harry Kane, if they'd got Erling Haaland? I think that the likelihood is they'll probably get Erling Haaland in for next season. And that just makes it quite a frightening prospect if you think what they can do and achieve without a proper number 9. Then what will it be like when one of those two appears? So yeah, you can't really knock Man City for what they've done. And Pep Guardiola and himself, when people talk about coaches being top coaches and a top coach in the world, and talk about Klopp, we talk about Conte, you've got to look at Guardiola and say, look, if he can manage to win a league without a recognised striker, it's just another feather in his cap, really. How many managers have got the ability to go out there, put a team together, and still get the results they're getting?
Yeah, that's it. And it's all well and good them having millions of pounds to spend, but you've seen Manchester United. Look how much money they've spent over the last 5-6 years, and look at the managers that they've had in. Likes of Mourinho, Van Gaal, Solskjaer. You can argue whether he should have got the job or not, but they've spent an absolute fortune and they can't get it right. Pep's got the money, but he manages to keep this work ethic going, and the players are just willing to put it all on the line. And I think Liverpool and City this year have just been the two teams that have been consistent. Chelsea had good patches, but no one's really got hold of that 4th place and really kept it. There's been teams there, they've lost, and it's almost like, does anyone actually want it?
Yeah, I think like going back to like playing for someone like Klopp or playing for someone like Guardiola, you must think also, what must it be like to go in on a day-to-day basis and work in that training facility and in that training environment? Because they're both having to keep a full squad happy, and they're able to rotate the squad. So it must just be, they must be doing something right. It must be a pleasure for those players to actually be playing for those managers, to be able to go in, do the training. No, maybe you're not going to play this week or next week, but when you're asked to come in and do a job, you do it to such a high standard. Just for instance, the same way Milner, he might not get full games, he might not be first choice, but when he's come in, he's picking up man of the match sort of appearances for what he does. So I think it's just like, it's down to like the professional attitude amongst the squad, I think. And I think that's might be what's lacking for instance, the Man U's and maybe the teams that aren't sort of performing as well as they should be. I think Conte's gone into Spurs, for instance, and I think he's actually from Nuno Espirito Santos. I think he's gone in there and he's stamped his authority on his mark on it. He's trying to put the mentality in as to what he had as a player. He doesn't want to lose. He doesn't play just to come second. His desire is to win championships, win titles. I think he's going to go to Levy and he's going to ask for money. If Levy doesn't back him, then Conte will walk. I think Levy knows that. But I think also with that kind of that desire and determination, I think that's beginning to start instill within the players. So the players that are there are beginning to realise this is what it's about. I think there will be in the summer there will be a bit of a cull. I think he'll probably go and bring in, for instance, like a new left back, potential right back, a striker. But he'll want to bring in quality players so he can actually progress. And I think as a Spurs fan, what's quite nice to know is that the players that are there are buying into it, and the players that he brings in, hopefully, obviously, will push the squad on even further. But I think it is the difference about, like I say, having someone that you look up to and you want to play for. I think with the Man U issue and Ranić has come in, but he's come in, and the team have known that he's coming in as a sort of temporary sort of instalment, and then he's going to become like a director of football or something. So it's a weird one. I think you've got players like Pogba, you've got Jesse Lingard, you've got Maguire, you've got players that just aren't performing to their capabilities. You've got Luke Shaw, and obviously you've got Ten Hag who's coming in now, and obviously he's got fantastic form with Ajax, plays a brilliant form of football with Ajax. He's going to want to come in and obviously put that in place at Man United. Do you think there needs to be a shifting of deadwood at Man U? Who do you think needs to go out the squad, or what places do you think just need sorting out?
Oh, mate, how long have we got? Jesus. I think, man management, mate, is key. I think if you can make a team happy when, you maybe you're not playing, I think that's key. And I think, like you were saying, with City, with a huge squad, they need almost 2 players for every position, and Pep and Klopp seem to be able to keep everyone happy. I think this day and age it's key, because players are very much almost like a bit snowflakey, aren't they? In this day and age. I love when Roy Keane talks about it. With United, mate, I think they've got a temporary manager in, and when you're a player, I think if a temporary manager comes in and it's only a temporary, then are they really going to get on board with what he's saying? Because his philosophy might be completely different to the man coming in to take over after the season. But in terms of what needs to change, you talk about Pogba. Every season there's this whisper about is he going to stay or is he go? When do you ever get that at Man City? When you never hear about De Bruyne or any of their key players. There's never any rumours about them moving on. And I think with United, there's always that every summer that winds me up. I think they should have got rid of him a long time ago. I think if Ferguson was still there, then that would have just been dealt with. I think a lot needs to change, but I think firstly, I think it's the mindset and just the work ethic. I think regardless of how much money we spent on players and their individual qualities, I think they need to go out there and put a shift in, because again, like I said earlier, at the moment it doesn't feel like, from watching it, whether they win, whether they lose, they draw, they don't really look like they could care less. And I think when we are so reliant on a 37-year-old bloke to keep scoring the goals, I think it's embarrassing.
Do you think there's a little bit of toxicity from above? I was trying to spit that word out, but from above. So you've obviously got the Glazers. You've got outside, there's sort of like rumblings about discontent with who owns the football club. Do you think that kind of filters down into the managers and down so on? Because I saw Ranić in an interview, and he was like discussing Ten Hag coming in, And he was saying, he said it's going to be like open heart surgery. Do you mean it's not like a small minor fix of going into the club? It needs to be fixed sort of like at all levels. And I thought that was quite sort of coming from him, considering he's going to go into the director of football role. I don't know if that was more of a statement to like the Glazers to say, look, Ten Hag coming in doesn't mean everything's going to be hunky-dory. We've got to make some changes at all levels to sort of make things right. But with Ranić obviously taking that position, obviously he did well at Leipzig as their director of football. He was able to spot and bring talent in. So maybe him working with Ten Hag will actually sort of make Man U better going forward. It might be a case, who knows, they might sort of discard some of the, what if you could call them semi-galacticos, and he might look at a more sort of like a more effective route for Man U. You might not get the named stars that you might want to come in the door, but if they do their homework and they get the right people in the right positions, you might prefer to have hard-working grafters with a bit of technical ability than sort of superstars that don't want to turn up and do the job.
Yeah, I think regardless of what's going on at the club, if you're a player at the club and you're being paid £100,000 a week, 150 grand a week or whatever it is, I think whether they like it or not as well, you know, they're looked up to by, you know, a lot of young people, and, you know, they're in the public eye. There's so many eyeballs watching them every single week, and they just need to put a shift in, regardless of what's going on at the club. But yeah, mate, I think a lot needs to change. I think they need to get rid of a few players. It's hard to say, mate, because without being in that circle, you don't really know, like, you know, who's saying what or what they're thinking. But I think it's fair to say I can't see United winning the league for a long time. I think that, you know, with City doing what they're doing and the signings that they're maybe looking at making, and Liverpool, they had a bit of a wobble last season, but, you know, they're back. But who needs to go, it's hard to say. But I think when we are again reliant on Ronaldo to keep scoring, you know, where some of the players this season, mate, have just not been at the races. It's just difficult, mate. So I think growing up as a United fan, I think maybe we were just spoiled because we, you know, you'd think, oh, okay, what we're going to win this year? Are we going to win the league? Are we going to win the FA Cup? How far are we going to go in the Champions League? And when you look at United now, it's almost like a different. It's the same club, but just their identity. It's changed so much in the last 10 years. It really has.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's like, I mean, if you used to go there at a previous time and you'd be thankful to pick up a point or something, but now you've got obviously teams that don't feel that sort of fear factor anymore. But obviously that's Man U as it is, but who knows? Ten Hag comes in, could be completely different next season. We'll have to look at that one.
Yeah, that's the thing, mate. I think it's never as bad as maybe it sometimes seems. And you know, you look at Chelsea. It was almost like the wheels have fallen off there. They're bringing Tuchel in. They go and win the Champions League. And I think obviously there's a lot going on at Chelsea off the pitch that are probably, you know, I think something like that and that magnitude would probably filter down to the players because it's, you know, it's a big deal. But yeah, who knows, mate? I'd love to see them back on top because, again, being a United fan, seeing Liverpool win the league or City, it's it's not great. But yeah, City for me are going to win the league. But in terms of top four, so what we've got: City, Liverpool, it's Chelsea, and at the moment it's Arsenal in fourth, right?
Yeah, so Chelsea are 66 points, Arsenal are 63 points, Spurs are 61 points. Now, there's every possibility that Chelsea could get dragged into it. Chelsea lose next game, Arsenal win, Arsenal go joint points. So it's quite close. Chelsea have got Wolves, Leeds, Leicester, and Watford.
Yeah.
To me, there's a possible they could take 6 or 7 points from that. Arsenal have got Leeds, Spurs, Newcastle, and Everton.
London derby in there as well, then.
London derby. But they've also got, if you look at the Chelsea game, they've obviously got Leeds, who are fighting for survival. Leeds could get dragged into a relegation battle, so that might be a difficult one for Chelsea. Arsenal have got Leeds as well. So again, Leeds have got something to play for. Spurs have obviously got the Champions League to play for, so that could be a game for them. They've also got Newcastle away. We've already said Newcastle a bit resurgent. Last game of the season for Arsenal is Everton, and that may well be a relegation sort of deciding game. Everton might need to win that one to stay up. And can you imagine what that would be like? Do you mean? So you've got Arsenal potentially going for a top 4 spot. You've got Everton potentially first time being relegated out of the Premier League. It would seem so weird not to see Everton in the league.
Yeah, do you know what? I was thinking that the other day, to see Everton go down, and like you were saying, just looking at the Premier League table and then looking at the Championship table and seeing Everton in the Championship just wouldn't seem right, because up until this season they've been such a strong, established Premiership side that we're obviously hoping to do good things. Was it Angelotti there at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, they spent money.
Started. I think, mate, it seems like a lifetime ago the season started, but I think they started quite well. It surprised me that Lampard took the job. It really did. It surprised me when he took the Chelsea job, because it's so early on in his career. But yeah, to see Everton struggling the way they are, obviously they had a great win against Chelsea the other day. Pretty sort of mixed emotions.
They needed.
Yeah, they really needed that. But yeah, I'm with you, mate. To see Everton go down, which at the moment is looking likely, would be a strange one. But yeah, they got a lot to play for. Beating Chelsea, of course, that's going to lift their spirits, give them a little bit more confidence. You never know what they'll go and do. But yeah, they've been really dragged into it, and it really has surprised me. If you'd have asked me sort of at the beginning of the season, are we talking about Everton getting relegated, mate? You'd have never sort of went with that.
Yeah, and then I suppose with the Spurs, they've got Liverpool next away. They got Arsenal at home, Burnley at home, and then they got Norwich. So Liverpool's going to be a hard game. They might nick a point there. They need to beat Arsenal at home, full stop. But then they got Burnley, and then obviously Burnley are fighting for the to stay in the league as well. So there's so many games that are going to affect Champions League and teams going down. It's really hard to call. Obviously, for myself, I'm fancying that we pip Arsenal by a point to get that last space. Do you know what I mean? But I wouldn't like to bet on it, to be honest. So I'm going to go for Chelsea in the Champions League, and I'm going to go for Spurs in the Champions League as well.
Yeah, do you know what? I feel like Arsenal, yes, as much as they've had a bit of success recently, Arteta sort of turned it around at points. I don't know. I still feel like they could lose a couple within that run in. So yeah, for me, I think I'm going to have to go Man City to win the league, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham.
Brilliant. Well, that's not bad. I think we quite sort of like wrap this season up. We've worked a lot of stuff out for the bookies now. So if you want to go out and sort of earn some money, we've put the predictions out there. You know where to go. That's a disclaimer. So if you do lose any money, you can't come back to Chelsea.
Don't let anyone fucking trust us, mate.
Yeah. So yeah, it was nice to catch up with the football. I mean, I think Chelsea is a whole podcast in itself to talk about what's gone on there, but I think it would be nice to sort of like catch up at the end of the season to see how everything panned out. Maybe we'll have to have a chat about the Champions League final. If it's an all England Champions League final, then obviously I think we'll probably have to have a little podcast on that just to see what our opinions on that and what our viewers' our opinions of that are as well. But it's been a pleasure to be back on the show, Tom, to have like a little one-to-one, do you know what I mean? Because as I say, it's been a long time since we've done it. And who knows, next season, what we might be able to do is be able to pick up the football